Have you ever ended a long day, looked in the mirror, and just not recognized the person looking back? You've been who your parents need you to be, the reliable friend everyone leans on, the employee who never says no, but that quiet, inner voice that knows what you actually want has gotten so faint, it's almost a whisper. We're taught that putting ourselves first is selfish. But what if the most honest and courageous thing you could ever do is to finally choose yourself? The famous psychologist Carl Jung believed this wasn't an act of selfishness, but the very path to becoming whole. This is what happens when you finally stop abandoning yourself and start listening. We often hear, "choose yourself," and immediately a wave of guilt follows. It sounds like shutting the door, turning away from everyone who needs us, and embracing a kind of selfishness we've been warned against our whole lives. But from a Jungian perspective, this couldn't be further from the truth. Choosing yourself isn't an act of abandonment towards others, it's an act of reconciliation with yourself. It's not about burning bridges, but about building a stronger, more authentic foundation within, so that when you do walk across those bridges to connect with others, you are doing so as your genuine self, not a version of you that was manufactured to please, perform, or placate. To understand this, we have to talk about the masks we wear. Carl Jung called this the persona. Think about it. You have your work mask, the one that speaks in professional emails and nods in meetings. You have your family mask, the one that falls into old roles and patterns during holiday dinners. You have your social mask, the friend who is always fine, always available, always easygoing. We need these masks to some degree. They help us navigate the world. But the danger comes when we glue the mask to our face. We forget we're even wearing it. We start to believe that the mask, the efficient employee, the perfect child, the effortless friend, is who we truly are. And slowly, the real self beneath it all, with its own unique passions, quirks, and needs, gets buried, silent, and lonely. Choosing yourself, then, is the conscious and courageous act of noticing the mask. It's gently prying it away to ask, "Okay, but who am I really under here? What do I want when no one is expecting anything from me?" This process of inquiry and discovery is what Jung called individuation. It's a big word for a simple, yet profound human journey, becoming the unique individual you were inherently meant to be, integrating all the parts of yourself, the light and the dark, rather than presenting a perfect, one-dimensional slice to the world. It's the ultimate goal of choosing yourself. This isn't a weekend project or a quick fix. It's the central adventure of a lifetime. It means finally listening to that faint inner voice you've been overriding for years. It's honoring a gut feeling you can't logically explain. It's pursuing a silly-seeming hobby simply because it brings you joy, even if it's not productive. It's setting a boundary not as an act of aggression against others, but as an act of profound respect for your own energy and peace. So when we talk about choosing yourself from this lens, we are talking about moving from fragmentation to wholeness. You are not rejecting the world. You are finally showing up for it in a more real and complete way. A person who has chosen themselves isn't an isolated, self-centered island. They are a deeply rooted tree. They can offer others shade and support not from a place of desperate need for validation, but from a place of genuine, overflowing abundance, because they are nourished from their own source. They relate to others not from a place of lack, but from a place of fullness. That is the beautiful, counterintuitive secret. By turning inward and choosing yourself, you ultimately become more present, more compassionate, and more authentically connected to everyone else. This decision to choose yourself, as vital as it is rarely met with a parade. In fact, the initial stages can feel less like a sunrise and more like an earthquake. The first thing you'll likely feel isn't freedom or joy, but a deep, gnawing sense of guilt. It's a visceral reaction, a sort of psychic muscle memory. You've spent a lifetime training yourself to say yes, to be available, to put others' comfort before your own needs. The first time you say no, or you prioritize your own peace, it can feel like you've broken a fundamental rule of existence. That guilt is the echo of your old persona, the mask screaming that it's dying. It's the familiar, albeit painful, groove of people-pleasing feeling right, while the act of self-honesty feels, paradoxically, like a betrayal. It's crucial to understand this guilt not as a sign you're doing something wrong, but as proof that you are finally doing something different. It's the friction of your authentic self trying to break through a shell that's been hardening for years. And it's not just an internal struggle. The world around you, or at least the small ecosystem you've built, will take notice. People who have grown accustomed to the old version of you, the always available friend, the employee who never pushes back, the family member who never rocks the boat, might react with confusion, disappointment, or even outright resistance. This is perhaps one of the most painful parts of the awakening, when your growth is perceived as a personal rejection by others. A loved one might sigh, "You've changed," and they don't mean it as a compliment. A colleague might make a passive-aggressive comment about you not being a team player anymore. This is where your commitment is tested. These reactions are not necessarily a sign that you are on the wrong path. Often, they are a sign that your new boundaries are working. They are illuminating which relationships were built on the convenience of your compliance and which have the sturdy foundation to accommodate your genuine, and sometimes changing, self. But the most profound confrontation awaits you not in the outside world, but within. As you peel away the layers of the persona, you don't immediately find a shiny, perfect self waiting underneath. Instead, you come face to face with what Carl Jung termed your shadow. This is the part of yourself that you've been taught to repress, hide, and deny: your hidden angers, your insecurities, your so-called unacceptable desires, your primal fears, and the flaws you'd never admit to anyone. We spend most of our lives running from this shadow, projecting it onto others, or trying to bury it under a mountain of positivity and productivity. Meeting it is daunting because it feels like staring into your own abyss. You might see a capacity for pettiness you didn't know you had, a deep well of grief you've been avoiding, or a raw envy that shocks you. This moment can make you want to slam the mask back on and pretend you never looked. Yet, this meeting is the most necessary part of the entire journey. Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's a vast repository of your untapped power and authenticity. That anger might be a righteous protector of your boundaries that you've silenced for too long. That grief is the testament to a loss you never let yourself fully feel. That envy is a blunt but honest messenger pointing you toward a deep, unfulfilled desire. Ignoring the shadow doesn't make it go away. It only gives it more power to subconsciously sabotage your life. Choosing to turn toward it, to acknowledge these disowned parts with curiosity rather than judgment, is the real work. It's the beginning of true integration, where you stop trying to be only good and instead become whole. This uncomfortable awakening, as messy and painful as it is the surest sign that you are moving beyond the surface and embarking on the real journey home to yourself. If you can move through the initial fire of guilt and face the depths of your own shadow, something remarkable begins to happen. The weight you've been carrying for years starts to lift. It's not that your life becomes magically free of problems, but the exhausting, constant effort of maintaining a facade simply vanishes. You stop performing. The energy you once spent editing your opinions, managing others' perceptions, and suppressing your real reactions is suddenly returned to you. It feels like a tax you never knew you were paying has been lifted. Life feels lighter not because the external circumstances have all changed, but because your internal world is no longer a battlefield. You have access to a reservoir of energy you forgot you had, and that energy naturally flows into the things that genuinely matter to you, fueling creativity, passion, and a simple, profound sense of being present in your own life. With that newfound energy comes a new kind of compass. The constant, static noise of external expectations, what your parents think you should do, what society deems successful, what your friends believe is right, begins to fade. In its place, a quieter, clearer internal signal grows stronger. This is your intuition. It's not a loud, commanding voice, but a deep, somatic knowing. You start making decisions not because they look good on paper, but because they feel right in your bones. A job offer might be prestigious, but it feels draining. You learn to trust that feeling and say no. A spontaneous opportunity might seem risky, but it sparks a thrill of alignment. You learn to say yes. This doesn't mean you become impulsive. It means you finally befriend yourself, trusting that the core of who you are is capable of guiding you toward your own unique path. This shift in your energy and alignment creates a magnetic effect on your relationships. The people who were drawn to the convenient, people-pleasing version of you may naturally drift away, creating space. And into that space come others, people who are drawn not to what you can do for them, but to who you are at your core. You attract your true tribe, those who see and appreciate your authenticity because they are living their own. These connections feel radically different. They require less maintenance and generate less drama. There's no walking on eggshells or performing for approval. You can be quiet, or silly, or vulnerable, and it's met with understanding, not judgment. You find yourself in a community of mutual respect, where you are valued for your being, not just your doing. This entire transformation is anchored by the most profound change of all, making peace with your entirety. The shadow you once feared, your anger, your flaws, your weirdness, is no longer a monster in the basement. By facing it, you've brought it into the light and discovered its value. That anger holds your boundaries. That vulnerability is the source of your empathy. Those so-called flaws are often the very things that make you interesting and human. This is the ultimate integration. You stop trying to be only good and instead embrace being whole. The exhausting internal conflict between who you are supposed to be and who you actually are simply dissolves. In its place is a deep, unshakable self-acceptance. You understand that you contain multitudes, light and dark, strength and fragility, and you wouldn't have it any other way. This is the feeling of coming home to yourself after a long, long journey. It's the peace of no longer being at war with your own nature. Understanding the theory is one thing, but how do you actually begin to do this in the messy reality of daily life? The work of choosing yourself isn't a passive waiting game. It's an active practice of turning inward with curiosity and courage. It's less about adding another thing to your to-do list and more about changing the quality of your relationship with yourself. Think of it not as navel-gazing, but as a form of sacred archaeology, gently brushing away the dust to uncover the authentic self that has been there all along. This work requires simple, yet profound tools that allow you to listen to the language of your own unconscious, which speaks not in logical sentences, but in feelings, images, and symbols. One of the most powerful ways to start is to give a voice to the parts of yourself that you normally try to silence. We all have an inner critic, a voice of fear, a well of anger or sadness. Instead of trying to battle them into submission or stuff them back down, try engaging with them. This is what Jung called active imagination. Find a quiet moment, take out a journal, and literally start a written conversation. Ask your fear, "What are you trying to protect me from?" And then let it answer. Write down whatever comes, without judgment. You might be stunned by what you learn. That critical voice might be a misguided attempt to keep you safe from failure. That anger might be a righteous cry against a boundary that's been crossed one too many times. This isn't about giving these voices control. It's about understanding them, so they stop running the show from the shadows. Another vital practice is to pay attention to the messages that come to you in the night. Your dreams are a direct line to your unconscious mind, A nightly therapy session where your psyche works through what you can't quite process during the day. Start keeping a notebook by your bed. The moment you wake up, before you check your phone or even get out of bed, write down everything you can remember, not just the plot, but the feelings, the colors, the strange objects. Don't worry about interpreting them perfectly with a dictionary of symbols. Instead, ask yourself what a particular figure or situation feels like to you. Is the monster in your dream the same feeling you get when your boss emails you? Is the lost house reminiscent of how you felt in your own family? Over time, patterns will emerge. Recurring dreams, characters, or settings are urgent memos from your inner self, pointing you toward what needs your attention. Perhaps the most fundamental, and for many, the most challenging practice, is to carve out genuine solitude. This doesn't mean scrolling through social media alone on your couch. It means creating undistracted space where you can simply be with yourself. It could be a walk in nature without headphones, sitting with a cup of tea and just staring out the window, or spending an afternoon puttering alone at home. In the absence of external noise and the demands of others, something subtle has room to surface. It's in this quiet that you might suddenly have a clarifying thought about a problem you've been struggling with, or feel a spontaneous urge to try something new, or simply feel a wave of peace that comes from not having to perform for anyone. This is the voice of the self, and it speaks in a whisper that can only be heard in the stillness. Finally, become a collector of what resonates with you. The stories, myths, movies, and pieces of art that you feel a powerful, inexplicable pull towards are not random. They are mirrors. They are clues to your personal mythos, the deeper narrative of your life that is waiting to be lived. That song that always makes you cry, the film character you can't forget, the ancient myth that gives you chills, they are all speaking to a part of your journey. Explore why. What is it about that story of redemption, that tale of a journey into the unknown, or that painting full of both darkness and light that feels so personal? Your soul is leaving you breadcrumbs through the culture you consume. Picking them up and contemplating them is a beautiful way to dialogue with your own depths and understand the unique story you are here to tell. This entire journey, with all its uncomfortable awakenings and profound transformations, leads to one simple, breathtaking destination: a life that is authentically yours. Choosing yourself is not a narrowing of your world, a retreat into self-absorption. It is quite the opposite. It is an expansion into a life of profound meaning. You are not losing your connections to others. You are replacing the fragile, anxious ties built on performance and expectation with bonds of genuine, grounded authenticity. The exhausting pursuit of external validation, the likes, the approvals, the constant measuring against someone else's yardstick, loses its power over you. In its place grows a quiet, unshakable confidence that comes from knowing, deep in your bones, who you are, what you value, and what you are here to do. This is the ultimate reward. You begin to measure your life not by a bank statement, a title, or the curated highlights of others, but by a deeper, internal sense of rightness. A difficult day can still hold a moment of pure peace because you were true to yourself in a conflict. A simple, quiet evening can feel like a triumph because you spent it in a way that genuinely nourished you, not in a way you felt you should. You trade the glittering, hollow trophy of society's approval for the rich, solid gold of self-respect. This is how you build a life that doesn't just look successful from the outside, but one that feels meaningful on the inside. Carl Jung said that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. This is the heart of it all. That privilege isn't bestowed by luck or given to a select few. It is earned. It is claimed through the daily, courageous choice to listen to that inner voice, to face your shadows, to honor your intuition, and to finally place your own becoming at the center of your story. The path is there. The choice, as it always has been, is yours.